My fiancée slept with her college ex during her bachelorette. Tripso, I shared the screenshots during the wedding toast and walked away. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I didn't really believe in the whole soulmate thing. I thought relationships were about effort and compromise, not magic. But then I met Jenna. She was the exception to every quiet, logical part of me. The first time I saw her was during a group project in college. She laughed so hard at something stupid I said that I forgot what I was even talking about. That laugh, bright, unfiltered, confident, it hooked me right then. We started as friends. She was ambitious, always running between classes and internships, while I was the grounded one, steady and patient. Over time, that balance became our rhythm. When I finally asked her out, it felt like the universe had been waiting for us to catch up to what it already knew. We spent years building a life together. Piece by piece, late-night study sessions, shared takeout dinners, talks about future kids, our dream house, even baby names. When I proposed, I didn't go overboard. Just us, candles, and a quiet rooftop where we used to stargaze during finals week. But when she said yes, she cried so hard I almost did too. She whispered, "You're my forever." And in that moment, I believed it. Every doubt I'd ever had about love dissolved right there under the city lights. For weeks afterward, everything felt surreal, like I was walking in a dream I'd been waiting my whole life to live. Jenna called her mom crying with joy, showed off the ring to everyone, and kept saying she couldn't wait to be my wife. I thought I'd finally done it, found the person who saw me, loved me, and wanted to build a life with me. But looking back now, that night was the peak before the fall. The first few weeks after our engagement felt like living inside a fairy tale. Jenna was radiant, and everyone around us seemed caught up in the glow of it all. But slowly the magic started to fade. Not all at once, just in small, almost invisible ways. It started with the wedding planning. I noticed how every decision revolved around her image. The color scheme had to photograph well. The venue needed Instagram appeal. She spent hours scrolling through influencer pages, saying things like, "Our wedding has to look better than this." I'd suggest something simple, something meaningful, and she'd smile that dismissive smile, the one that said she wasn't listening. One night, I brought up the idea of saving money by doing a smaller ceremony. She didn't even look up from her laptop when she said, "Babe, this isn't just about us. It's about showing people what we've built." That sentence stuck with me. Showing people, not celebrating love. I laughed it off at the time, but it lingered in my mind like an echo. Then came the reconnecting old college friends. Reaching out after seeing her engagement post, I was fine with it until one name kept popping up, Tyler, her ex. She mentioned he'd congratulated her and that they'd caught up a bit. I didn't overthink it at first. I trusted her. But then she started bringing him up casually, little stories from college, private jokes I wasn't part of. "Relax," she said once when she caught me frowning. "We're just friends." You know, I'd never cross a line. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in her tone. It wasn't guilt. It was confidence the kind people have when they know you won't question them. And I didn't. Not yet. I told myself this was normal pre-wedding stress. That's what love does sometimes. Blinds you with hope. But deep down, I could already feel a shift, like the foundation beneath us had started to crack. As the wedding drew closer, Jenna's excitement reached a fever pitch. She spent every night glued to her phone, organizing bridal showers, brunches, and the inevitable bachelorette trip. "It's just one last girl's getaway," she told me, flashing that practiced grin. "You'll survive a week without me, right?" I laughed it off, trying to match her energy, but something about it felt off. When she mentioned the destination, Miami, I felt my stomach tighten. "Isn't that where Tyler lives now?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, but so what? He's not part of this trip." "God, you sound paranoid." The sharpness in her tone caught me off guard. It wasn't a joke anymore. She was defensive. The week before her flight, she was constantly distracted. more interested in group chats and outfit hauls than me. I'd walk into the room, and she'd lock her phone instantly. "Surprise for the trip," she'd say, grinning, but the grin didn't reach her eyes. Even on the night before she left, while I packed her a small travel kit like I always did, I could feel her detachment. Her hugs were quick, her kisses absent, dash-minded, the morning of her flight. She barely looked back as she wheeled her suitcase to the door. I told her to have fun, and she said, "Don't worry, babe, I'll miss you," before disappearing into a cab. That was the first time in years I didn't believe her. Over the next few days, her messages got shorter. A quick "miss you." Here, a vague "having fun." There. When I asked what they were doing, she'd dodge with, "You'll see the photos later." Or, "We're just chilling, babe." At first, I told myself she deserved this break, that I was overthinking. But then a friend sent me a tagged story. Jenna dancing in a club, arm around someone tall and familiar looking. Cropped halfway out of frame, the caption read, "The bride-to-be and her college cruise just like old times." And I couldn't stop staring at that blurred outline next to her. 2 days after that story, the pit in my stomach turned into a full-blown ache I couldn't ignore. I tried to be rational. Maybe I was just reading too much into it. Maybe the guy in that video wasn't Tyler, but my gut wouldn't let it go that night. Around midnight, I was half asleep when my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, or so I thought. I opened it to see, "I can still taste you." My heart stopped. It didn't make sense. The message wasn't meant for me. I stared at it for a full minute, my brain refusing to process it. Then another text came. "Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing." My chest went cold. I typed, "Jenna." But before I could hit send, the messages disappeared. Deleted a few seconds later. She texted again, this time normally. "Hey, babe. Just heading to bed. Miss you." I didn't reply. My hands were shaking. I sat there in silence, feeling my pulse thudding in my ears. I kept trying to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe one of her friends borrowed her phone. Maybe it was some prank. But my instincts were screaming otherwise. The next morning I asked casually, "So, how's Miami?" She sent back a voice note, laughing, chatting with her friends in the background like nothing was wrong. It's amazing. "Don't be so jealous." I wanted to believe that laugh again. The same one I fell for in college. But now it sounded hollow, like a performance. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through her tagged posts again. Every picture, every comment. Tyler's name didn't show up anywhere. But I noticed one new, like on every photo. An account with no profile picture and a familiar pattern in the username. My heart sank. It was Tyler's old handle, the one she'd told me she blocked years ago. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't paranoid. I was being played. When Jenna came back from Miami, she looked different. It wasn't just the tan or the new haircut. There was something in her eyes, something distant, almost calculated. She kissed me the moment she walked in, but it felt forced, mechanical, like she was checking off a box. "Trip was amazing," she said, tossing her luggage aside. "You'd have been bored though, too much dancing and girl talk." I forced a laugh, pretending to believe her, even though every nerve in my body screamed otherwise. Over the next week, her behavior only got stranger. She started guarding her phone like it was her lifeline. Bathroom trips became longer. The second she got a message, she'd tilt her screen away. At night, she'd roll over to the edge of the bed, scrolling with her brightness turned all the way down. I tried to tell myself it was stress. Everyone gets weird before weddings. But one afternoon, while preparing a slideshow for our engagement photos, I borrowed her iPad, something she'd left unlocked before. This time, it wasn't. It asked for a passcode. Odd. I tried the usual one she used for everything. It worked, and that's when my world split open. Her iPad had her messages synced. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her recent chats. And there, they were texts from Tyler. Explicit, detailed, time-stamped during her Miami trip. Photos, voice notes. Even one message that said, "You always knew I was the one who got away." The air left my lungs. I felt the room closing in, my chest tightening like a vice. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I just sat there, staring at those words, replaying every memory of her smiling at me, every I love you, every plan we'd made. I forwarded everything to my email, screenshots, audio, the entire thread. Then I locked the iPad, set it back where it was, and sat in silence until she got home. When she walked through the door, smiling and humming like nothing had happened, I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see my fiancé. I saw a stranger wearing her face. That night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I waited until after dinner, till we were both sitting on the couch, watching some random Netflix show neither of us was paying attention to. I paused the screen and said quietly, "Jenna, I saw your messages." She froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. For a moment, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face. But then she blinked, put the spoon down, and laughed. "What messages?" "The ones between you and Tyler," I said, voice trembling. "On your iPad." Her eyes widened, but not in shock. "In calculation? You went through my private stuff?" she said, standing up. "Wow, you're unbelievable." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Unbelievable? You cheated on me, Jenna." She crossed her arms, tears welling up fast. "I didn't cheat. You're twisting things. We were just catching up. You're paranoid and controlling." Gaslighting. It hit me like a punch. I'd read about people doing this, turning the blame until you start questioning your own reality. I felt my pulse spike. "You literally wrote that you slept together," I said. She smirked, wiping fake tears. "Do you even hear how crazy you sound? Those messages are jokes. Tyler's engaged. You're really ruining our wedding over this?" Her tone wasn't defensive anymore. It was mocking. Like she already knew I didn't have the courage to end things. And maybe deep down, she was right. I sat there, silent, staring at her, trying to find the woman I fell in love with somewhere in that cold expression. Then she turned her back to me and said softly, "If you loved me, you'd trust me." That line hit harder than any slap. Because she knew I did love her. She weaponized it. I wanted to scream, to throw her lies in her face, but instead I just nodded. She smiled faintly, thinking she'd won. But in that moment, something inside me broke. The man who trusted her died quietly that night. And the man who would destroy her reputation began to wake up. For the next few weeks, I played along. Smiled when she smiled. Laughed when she laughed. I even apologized for overreacting. Watching her face light up with that smug satisfaction only a liar feels when they think they've gotten away with it. Inside, though, I was cold calmer than I'd ever been. I wasn't the man begging for truth anymore. I was the man collecting evidence. Jenna went right back to her act of the devoted fiancée, the doting bride to be. She gushed about floral arrangements and posted #blessed captions with engagement selfies. Like she hadn't shattered my trust into dust. To everyone else, she was glowing with pre-wedding joy. To me, she was a walking illusion. She started telling her bridesmaids how proud she was of how strong we were as a couple. I heard her once through the hallway, bragging that I had finally gotten over my little jealousy episode. I wanted to laugh, but instead, I just stood there in the dark, staring at the woman who thought she could rewrite the story before I even had the chance to tell it. I kept everything organized, every screenshot, every message, every timestamp. I saved voice notes and exported files onto a USB drive I hid inside a fake book on my shelf. Every night I'd open that folder, scroll through it, and remind myself of what she'd done, why I couldn't let her walk away unexposed. I watched her plan her own downfall without knowing it. She picked her wedding dress, finalized the seating chart, and practiced her vows in front of the mirror. I watched from the doorway once as she whispered, "You're my forever." The same line she said during our proposal. I almost pitied her in that moment almost. But then I remembered those texts. The laughter in her voice when she lied to me. The way she said, "If you loved me, you'd trust me." That's when I realized love had nothing to do with what I had to do next. The morning of the wedding arrived, cloaked in irony. Sunlight streamed through the hotel window, golden and pure, the kind of day people pray for. Jenna looked ethereal as she got her hair done, surrounded by bridesmaids snapping pictures and sipping champagne. To everyone in that room, she was a glowing bride stepping into her forever. To me, she was the calm before the storm I'd been planning for weeks. I played my part flawlessly. I smiled for the photographer, fixed my tie, and shook hands with guests. Every compliment about how perfect we looked together felt like another twist of the knife. Inside, I was counting down the hours. Every minute brought me closer to the moment she'd see what truth really looked like. Standing at the altar, I stared at her as she walked down the aisle. She looked stunning, no question. But beneath the veil, I saw it the same smirk I'd come to recognize, subtle and smug. The crowd saw a bride glowing with love. I saw a woman basking in her victory, believing she'd won. When the officiant asked if I took her to be my wife, my chest tightened. For a split second, I wondered if I should walk away right then. Just end it before the vows, before the lies became legal. That would have been mercy in. Mercy was something she'd never shown me, so I said, I do. Her smile widened, eyes glistening like she'd finally gotten everything she wanted. She had no idea that every photo taken that day, every kiss, every toast was part of the build-up to her own public undoing, as guests clapped and music swelled. I pulled her close and whispered just loud enough for her to hear, "You'll remember this day forever." She thought it was romantic. I meant it as a promise. The ceremony was over, but I barely remembered any of it. The applause, the photos, the confetti, it all blurred together like static. I kept smiling because that's what everyone expected. Inside, I was a hollow shell of the man who once dreamed of that day. Every time Jenna squeezed my hand, pretending to be the picture of love, I felt my stomach turn. When we stepped into the reception hall, everything looked picture perfect. The fairy lights glowed, champagne sparkled, and our initials shimmered across the dance floor in gold lettering. It was exactly the kind of spectacle Jenna wanted: grand, romantic, unforgettable. She had no idea how right she was about that last part, but in that moment, standing there among our friends and families, I hit rock bottom. Not because of what she did, but because I realized I still loved her. Or maybe I loved who I thought she was. That realization broke me more than the betrayal itself. I excused myself, slipping into the restroom, locking the door behind me. I looked at my reflection, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, tie hanging loose. I didn't look like a groom. I looked like a ghost haunting his own wedding. I gripped the sink and whispered, "How did it come to this?" For a moment I thought about just leaving, walking out, vanishing before the toast, sparing myself the humiliation of making a scene. But then I remembered the nights I'd stayed awake, questioning my sanity. The way she looked at me like I was the fool. The smug confidence in her voice when she said, "If you loved me, you'd trust me." Something inside me hardened. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. I splashed cold water on my face, straightened my tie, and walked back into the hall ready to turn the fairy tale into a reckoning. The DJ's voice boomed over the speakers, calling for the groom to give his toast. My hands didn't shake. Not anymore. The room was glowing with laughter when I took the mic. The band had just finished playing, glasses were clinking. And Jenna was radiant in the center of it all, soaking in the attention like sunlight. I smiled at her and she smiled back. No idea that she was seconds away from watching her perfect world implode. I started slow, voice calm, steady. "I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight," I said. "It means the world to celebrate this day with people who've supported us, believed in us, and cheered for our love." People nodded, clapped softly. Jenna reached for my hand under the table. I let her take it. "Marriage," I continued, "is built on trust, honesty, and loyalty. Without those things, it's just a performance." I heard a few confused laughs ripple through the crowd. Jenna's grip on my hand loosened slightly. "And I think it's important," I said, locking eyes with her now, "that everyone gets to see the truth behind the performance." I pulled out my phone, opened the photo gallery, and cast it to the projector that was meant for the slideshow of our love story. The first image popped up, a screenshot of Jenna's messages with Tyler. Gasps erupted instantly. One woman covered her mouth. Another man muttered, "Oh my God!" Jenna froze. "Turn it off," she whispered, face draining of color. But I didn't stop. I clicked through message after message. Her voice notes. Her photos. The proof of everything. "This," I said, voice trembling, but firm, "is what loyalty looked like behind closed doors." The room was dead silent except for her mother's horrified sob and the sound of chairs scraping as guests shifted uncomfortably. Looked at Jenna one last time. She was shaking, whispering something I didn't care to hear. Then I raised my glass, took a slow sip and said, "Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. I won't be staying." And as I walked out, the applause that once celebrated our love turned into the stunned silence that buried it. The moment I stepped outside, the night air hit me like freedom and fire all at once. Behind me, chaos erupted, voices rising, footsteps scrambling, the muffled sound of Jenna crying mixed with her mother's hysterical shouting. Guests didn't know whether to comfort her or chase after me. Some tried. I kept walking. My best friend Mark caught up to me in the parking lot. "Man, what the hell just happened in there?" His voice was half shock, half awe. I didn't answer right away. I just handed him the phone, still on the message thread. He scrolled, eyes widening. "Holy dude, you actually did it." I nodded. She deserved it. Within an hour, the clips were already spreading online. Guests had recorded everything, the toast, the projection, the gasps. It went viral faster than I could process. People I hadn't talked to in years were texting me, sending links to TikToks and Reddit threads titled, "Groom Exposes Cheating Bride During Wedding Toast." Jenna tried to call me that night 27 times. I didn't pick up once. By morning, her family had called too, some begging, some furious. Her mother left a voicemail screaming that I'd ruined her daughter's life. I almost laughed at the irony. In the days that followed, the fallout was brutal. Jenna lost friends. Her job put her on leave because the video had spread locally. And Tyler deleted all his social media. Her perfect image shattered overnight. But I wasn't celebrating. I felt hollow, like the revenge had given me peace, but stripped something from me too. Mark came over a few nights later with beer and silence. After a while, he said, "You good, man?" I looked at the wall where our engagement photos used to hang. The faint square marks still visible. "Not good," I said quietly, "but I'm free," and that was enough for now. Months have passed since that night, but I still remember every detail, the smell of the flowers, the weight of the mic in my hand, the silence after the truth hit. People online called me a legend, a hero, a savage, but the truth is, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. Jenna tried reaching out for weeks. At first she begged, long, tearful voicemails about how she'd made a mistake, how she wanted to fix things. Then came the guilt trips. "You humiliated me. You destroyed me." Eventually the apologies turned to anger. "I hope you're happy." "You ruined my life," I never replied, not once. Some nights, I'd open her messages just to see if she'd finally stopped. She did after about a month. I think she realized there was nothing left to manipulate. I started therapy. At first, it felt pointless, like talking about the storm after it already wrecked the house. But week by week, I started understanding why it hurt so much. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the way she made me doubt my reality, my worth, my sanity. That kind of betrayal doesn't end when the relationship does. It lingers in the way you see yourself. But healing comes quietly. I moved to a new apartment, got back into photography. Reconnected with old friends I'd drifted from while I was too busy proving myself to someone who never cared. The world felt lighter again. A few months ago, I heard Jenna moved away. Rumor has it she's trying to rebuild her life, staying off social media. I don't hate her anymore. I don't need to. The truth is, revenge didn't heal. Me walking away did. Telling the truth set me free. But silence kept me free. Sometimes I still think about that night. It's about how everything fell apart in front of hundreds of people. But now, when I remember it, I don't feel pain. Just peace. Because she got exposed and I finally got my life back.